Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Scary Story channel. Tonight, I have a tale for you that will make you think twice before you look into a mirror again. It's about reflections, or rather, the terrifying absence of them. It all started with an antique mirror. Alex, a collector of oddities, found it in a dusty corner of a second-hand shop. It was large and ornate with a heavy, dark wood frame carved with twisting vines and strange, unidentifiable flowers. The glass itself was flawless, almost unnaturally so for its age. The shopkeeper, a withered old man with cloudy eyes, sold it for a surprisingly low price, muttering something about it being lonely and needing a new home. Alex, thrilled with his find, didn't question it. He hauled it back to his apartment and hung it in the hallway, directly opposite his bedroom door. That first night, everything seemed normal. Alex admired how the mirror made the narrow hallway feel more spacious. He caught his reflection as he walked past, a familiar face smiling back. But the next morning, something felt off. As he stumbled out of his bedroom, half asleep, he glanced at the mirror. For a split second, he saw nothing. Just the empty hallway, the wall behind him, the closed door of the linen closet. No reflection. He blinked, rubbed his eyes, and looked again. There he was, looking tired and confused, his reflection staring back as it should. He dismissed it as a trick of the light, a remnant of a dream. But the incidents continued. A fleeting moment here, a brief second there. He'd walk past and see an empty space where his reflection should be. It was so quick, so subtle, that he always managed to convince himself he'd imagined it. It was like a visual glitch, a momentary lapse in his brain's processing. He started to feel a prickle of unease whenever he was near the mirror, a sense that he was being watched, not by his own reflection, but by the emptiness that sometimes took its place. One evening, he decided to test his sanity. He stood directly in front of the mirror, staring intently. He waited 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5. Nothing happened. His reflection was perfectly stable, mimicking his every slight movement, his every breath. He let out a sigh of relief, feeling a bit foolish. He was just stressed, working too hard. He turned to walk away, and as his head turned, he caught it in his peripheral vision. For a long, deliberate second, the mirror showed the empty hallway behind him, even as he was still partially facing it. The image was crystal clear. There was no Alex in the mirror. A cold dread washed over him. This was not a trick of the light. This was real. He slowly turned back, his heart pounding in his chest. His reflection was there again, but this time it looked different. The eyes seemed darker, the smile a little too wide, almost mocking. It was his face, but it felt alien, like a mask worn by something else. He backed away slowly, his eyes locked on the reflection, which remained perfectly still, that unsettling smile fixed on its face. He didn't sleep in his bedroom that night. He crashed on the sofa, the living room door firmly shut, trying to ignore the hulking shadow of the mirror that loomed in the hallway. The next few days were a living nightmare. The phenomenon grew more frequent and lasted longer. Sometimes he'd walk into the hallway and see nothing but the empty space in the glass for nearly a minute before his reflection would suddenly pop into existence, as if it were catching up. The air in the apartment grew heavy and cold, especially around the mirror. He started hearing faint whispers seeming to emanate from the glass, hushed words in a language he couldn't understand. He felt drained, his energy seeping away day by day. He stopped inviting friends over, afraid of what they might see, or what they might not see. One night, driven by a mixture of fear and a desperate need for answers, he decided to confront the mirror. He set up a camera, pointing it directly at the glass, and pressed record. Then he sat on the floor, a few feet away, and just watched. For hours, nothing happened. The camera's red light blinked, a small, reassuring presence in the dark. Alex grew drowsy, his head nodding. He must have dozed off because he was startled awake by a sound, a soft, scraping sound. It was coming from the mirror. He looked up, his blood turning to ice. His reflection was there, but it wasn't mimicking him anymore. It was moving on its own. Slowly, deliberately, the reflection raised a hand and pressed it against the inside of the glass. Its fingers were long and pale, almost skeletal. The scraping sound was its fingernails dragging down the surface, leaving no marks, yet the sound was horrifyingly real. The reflection's face, his face, twisted into a silent scream of agony. Its eyes were wide with a terror he had never known, pleading with him. Then the reflection's mouth opened, and a voice, his own voice but distorted and filled with static, echoed from the mirror. "It's trapped me," the voice rasped. "It wants out. Don't let it out." Before Alex could process what was happening, the reflection's face contorted again, this time into that familiar, wide, mocking smile. The eyes, his eyes, turned pitch black. This new presence in the mirror slowly, deliberately began to knock on the glass from the inside. One knock, then another, a steady, rhythmic, patient tapping. Tap, tap, tap. Alex scrambled backward, his mind reeling. What was trapped? Who was trapped? Was that his real reflection, his soul, somehow pulled into the mirror? And what was this other thing, this entity, wearing his face? The tapping grew louder, more insistent, resonating through the floorboards. It was a demand. It wanted to switch places. The creature in the mirror raised its other hand and began to push against the glass, which seemed to ripple like water around its hands. Panicked, Alex knew he had to get rid of it. He grabbed the heaviest object he could find, a bronze statue from his collection, and with a scream of desperation hurled it at the mirror. The moment the statue hit, there was a deafening shatter, not of glass, but of something else, like 1,000 whispers screaming at once. The mirror didn't break. Instead, the glass turned black, completely opaque, like a pool of ink. The tapping stopped. The apartment fell into a dead, suffocating silence. The camera had been knocked over in his haste, its lens now pointing at the ceiling. For a long moment, Alex stood there, panting, staring at the black, featureless surface. It was over. He had sealed it in. Exhausted but relieved, he stumbled toward his bedroom. As he passed the now dark mirror, he couldn't resist one last glance. In the polished black surface, he saw a faint reflection. It wasn't the empty hallway. It was him. But he wasn't standing in the hall. He was in a dark, empty space. His hands pressed against a surface he couldn't see, his face a mask of pure terror. He was on the inside. And standing in the hallway, looking at the black mirror, was something that looked exactly like him. A slow, triumphant smile spreading across its face. It raised a hand and waved. Then it turned and calmly walked into his bedroom, closing the door behind it. The last thing the camera recorded, before its battery died, was the sound of faint, desperate tapping, coming not from the hallway, but from somewhere far, far away, somewhere inside the glass. So the next time you look in a mirror and your reflection seems to take a second to appear, ask yourself, is it just a trick of the light? Or is it waiting for the right moment to stay behind and let something else step out? Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to Scary Story for more tales from the dark. Stay safe and check your reflections.